All right, let's talk about something that's been around for, well, 2,000 years, the saints of the Catholic Church. We're going to dive into who they are, how someone even becomes one, and why, after all this time, we're still so fascinated by them.
Okay, so you've definitely heard the names, right? St. Patrick, St. Valentine, we celebrate their holidays, we hear the stories, but have you ever stopped to think, what is a saint really? And what does it actually take to get that title? Let's get into it.
So, let's get down to the official definition. At its heart, a saint is someone who the Catholic Church recognizes as having this just exceptional level of holiness. They're believed to be in heaven, enjoying what's called the beatific vision, which is basically a fancy way of saying they're in the direct presence of God. They're held up as the ultimate role models.
But here's the thing, it's not just about being a super nice person. Oh no, there's a whole official process, a really formal and often really long one, and it all starts after they've passed away. So, this journey to becoming a saint, it's called canonization, and it has 4 main steps. Think of it like leveling up. First, a local bishop investigates their life, and they can be called a servant of God. Then, if the Vatican agrees they lived a life of heroic virtue, they become venerable. But to get past that stage, something amazing has to happen.
And this is where things get, well, miraculous. Literally. To get from venerable to the next step, beatified, the Church needs solid proof of a miracle that happened because of that person's intervention from heaven. And then, to finally be declared a saint, they usually need a second confirmed miracle. So it's not just about how you lived, it's about your continued presence.
Okay, so saints aren't just historical figures to look up to. For a lot of believers, they're much more active in day-to-day life. And that's where we get this amazing idea of patron saints. You could almost say they have heavenly job descriptions.
Think of a patron saint like a specialist, you know? They're seen as a special advocate up in heaven for a very specific group of people, or a country, or even a profession. People pray to them for help with their particular area of expertise. And trust me, the specialties get very specific.
I mean, look at this. The variety here is just wild. You've got St. Agatha for bakers, which makes sense. St. Aloysius Gonzaga for students. Okay, I get that. St. Zita if you lose your keys, super useful. But my absolute favorite, St. Albinus of Angers. You pray to him to ward off pirate attacks. Seriously, it just goes to show there's a saint for pretty much anything you can think of.
So if you can have a saint for just about any problem, it probably won't shock you to learn that there's also a saint for just about every day of the year. It's this huge, sprawling calendar of remembrance.
And you know where this whole saint of the day thing came from? It actually goes way back to the early Christians. They had this beautiful custom of remembering martyrs on the anniversary of their death. They saw it as their birthday into heaven. Over the centuries, as more saints were recognized, the calendar just filled up. Every day gets its own feast day.
So how many saints are we talking about here? Well, get this. The official list, it's got over 10,000 names on it. And that's just the officially recognized ones. The sheer scale is just mind-boggling.
Wow. And just look at this list. This is just a tiny little piece of the A section. It's this massive army of names stretching back 2,000 years from all over the world. There's no way anyone could possibly know them all.
But of course, out of those thousands and thousands, some have become total rock stars. You know, the household names. People like St. Francis of Assisi, the guy who loved animals, or St. Valentine, whose feast day has turned into this massive global thing that has almost nothing to do with the original saint. They're known way outside the Church.
Okay, so we've looked at the process, the patrons, the just incredible number of them. So what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean when you put it all together?
When you boil it all down, this whole tradition of saints, it's so much more than just a list of names. For people of faith, it's like this living, breathing connection to history. It's a giant library of stories. Stories about courage, about helping others, about faith, and they're there to inspire and comfort people, connecting them to this long shared heritage.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about, doesn't it? Whether you're religious or not, you have to admit the fact that these stories have lasted for centuries is pretty fascinating. What does our collective interest in these figures, these spiritual superheroes you could call them, what does it tell us about our own fundamental human need for heroes, for someone to look up to? It's definitely something worth chewing on. Thanks for watching.